Welcome to Unstitching ADHD Urban Ed Talks, where we challenge deficit based thinking and center neurodiversity in real classrooms. I'm Dr. Stanley Ekiyo, and today we are shifting from fixing ADHD to leading with it. I'm joined by Lisa Richard, advocate, parent, creator of the Clarity, Confidence, Courage Journey Map. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
What's your personal connection to ADHD and how did it shape your work?
My personal connection, unknowingly growing up with ADHD, learning later in life that I am diagnosed with ADHD. But my true first experience with it was my second son. Both of my children are neurodivergent. My second son, when he was diagnosed with ADHD. So that was my first experiences with it as a mom. And then my personal experiences with it my whole life unknowingly. And then once I was diagnosed, how it shaped and what it did for me was having that validation that me thinking differently was a unique way of leading differently, of meeting people where they are, and has ultimately led to my claim that neurodiversity is the prism lighting the table.
I like that. So, what does it really mean to move from fixer, right? That mindset that wants to fix, to a leadership mindset for parents and educators?
It's like going from the fixed mindset to the open mindset.
Mhm.
And as a fixer, for me personally, fixing was more about me living in survival mode. It was about people pleasing. It was about just trying to fix everything. But truly, with parents and with educators in leadership, the way I talk about it is I call myself a thought partner, not a thought leader, because a partner wraps their arms around you. So when you're talking about leadership, I believe that a person that is truly in partnership with other people, helping to educate them, helping them get clarity, gain confidence, and then have the courage to go out there and do it on your own, which is essentially my journey map and how we get there, is what shifts somebody from trying to fix something to actually leading them through a process that helps them learn how to do it on their own and sustain it.
Interesting. Can you briefly walk us through your journey map? I'm really curious about this and excited about it. Your journey map framework. Can you walk us through that?
So, for the ability to clearly articulate it in a concise way, I'm actually going to read some of the things that I do with it because I've been known to do lots of non sequiturs and then come back to it. So, I just want to try to be very clear for the audience here. So, it's clarity, confidence, and courage. And I often will now call it the three C's journey map. And it's something that I've been doing for years. I just hadn't named it. But in naming it, now I can help people understand it better. So the first thing is the clarity. And for lack of better phrasing, you're moving past a linear illusion. It's the moment where the messy middle is where you stop seeing a dead end and you start seeing the bridge to connecting the dots, the bridge to the next step, whatever that bridge might be, which then leads into confidence. And that confidence is where you're gaining the confidence by playing around in the dirt, in the muck, in the things that just are tough to have a conversation about, but without it, you can't get clear and build confidence. So you're getting clearer in that confidence stage. It's when you realize that the unknowns are actually not threats, they're data points to what you need to learn about, gain more trust in, see differently in order to forward with courage. So we're tying the clarity in, looping in the confidence, and then with the courage really is the willingness and the ability to stay in that uncomfortable middle, what I like to call the messy middle, leaning into those who know what you don't. So allowing yourself to be vulnerable enough to ask for help, especially as a parent, especially in the school systems when we really don't know what we know. And so bringing these things together is the path to consistent confidence. So you have to have courage to be willing to go there to gain that clarity. But the map is the clarity, confidence, and courage. But as I wrap them around and they intertwine with one another, that's where the messy middle is where the hard work happens. And when I talk about neurodiversity as the prism lighting the table, it's those differing minds that when you come together and are willing to work with and alongside of one another, even if you don't understand one another, as long as you can respect each other, we can move forward together.
It's interesting. I like that the unknown are just data points. I love that quote. They are just data point that gives us understanding, to what's going on. Thank you for that explanation. Can you share, and I always think about this because this it's what really builds passion, you know. Can you share a moment when things worked and when they didn't?
Daily. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So, a great example, thinking about all the things I did with my older son, all the interventions, the early interventions, the trauma-informed applied therapy, behavioral therapy that we did with my older son, speech and language, OT, sensory regulation, behavioral psychologist, all these interventions. Then 3.5 years later, my younger son came along, and several years after he came along, we started to uncover a lot of his neurodifferences, fine motor skill, gross motor skill, visual processing disorder, ADHD. Not one of the interventions, the tools and supports that I had learned along those first 8 years of my older son's life, none of them worked. None of them. I felt so defeated and so just unsure of myself because why isn't any of this working? By becoming vulnerable and asking for help, in part because of the teams I had built when I figured out what was going on with my older son, I was able to tap into some of those people and ask them, what am I missing? What's happening? What I learned is that a child with an ADHD brain is very different than a child with an autistic brain. Interestingly, when my oldest was diagnosed, I was told by the psychiatrist that if you're diagnosed autistic, there is ADD or ADHD included in it. Now he's going to be 20, so back then it was separated. And so then when ADHD came about, I thought, well, that's weird because I just automatically incorporated them. But if you have ADHD, you don't automatically have autism. That's what was described to me. So that's how I learned about all of this. So in knowing that, I'm doubling down on what I'm doing with my younger son not working at all. There's intersectionality, so it should be working, shouldn't it? But in reality, very different brains. You meet one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. You meet one ADHD person, you've met one ADHD person. Because even what works for me doesn't work for my younger son, and we're both diagnosed ADHD. So, and the moment that things began to work was when I let go of the judgment on myself that everything I had learned should already be helping my other son, and realize that I needed to find different and new and creative ways to help my second son because what we did for my first one isn't working, but it doesn't mean there aren't ones out there that will work. And eventually we went down that path.
because that's what we always say. When you meet one individual with ADHD, you've met just one individual with ADHD. And that's the real struggle in schools, getting educators to really understand that. And when you have all these theories out there that at times tend to put everything in one box, then people start saying, no, we are using all these strategies. It's not us, it's the kid, it's the parent. They start pushing it back to that. I'm so excited that you're bringing that up. And that's what I want our audience to really understand, especially educators. You've met one, you've just met one, right? And if you don't know that, then you create more problems than you're solving. Now, about parents, families, schools, it's a big disconnect. Most parents rely on the school to be an informed partner that should give them the information they need to know. But most times they feel very disappointed that schools make assumptions, right? What are one or two practical ways families can advocate in schools, especially when they feel stuck, when they feel like nothing is working?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that's really important to address is all the school team members are not informed people. And I think that's really important. They are not informed people. At least a third of my clients, and I call myself a neurodiversity consultant, not an advocate, because advocates oftentimes get bad raps. And I also have a very eclectic background between my professional and corporate worlds and HR leadership and sales and training development, in addition to all my advocacy stuff. But oftentimes, one of the biggest misnomers is that a teacher should know everything, an administrator should know everything. A third of my clients are teachers because they know what they know, but they also don't know what they don't know. And so if we don't learn to work together, we're constantly going to be working against each other. No different than when a teacher tries to incorporate accommodations for all kids in the same way, when every child might need a unique perspective. Some may work for the masses, but there are certain ones that will only work for certain kids. So the first thing that I would say is parents, just know that more often than not, you may think that the school is trying to work against you, yet many of them don't know what else to do. And so going into a meeting in a way that brings out more anxiety, more emotion, isn't helping anyone, especially not your child. So mindset matters, open-mindedness matters. So I think that's a piece of it. So what part can you play in ensuring that we're showing up at the table to have the conversation for the child? Because that's who's really this is all about here. So that's number one, is just kind of how it's approached. And the other thing that I would want to say is that never be afraid to bring someone like me into the room with this caveat. Be sure to do your homework. Be sure to have the conversations with whoever it is that you are choosing to bring in, to understand how they work with you, how they work with the school, how they work on behalf of your child. Parents and professionals don't hire me to work for them. They hire me to work with them. And so to me, I'm not for everyone and everyone's not for me. But it's really important to know that if you're feeling stuck, there are people out there that are right for you. There are free resources in addition to people like me who charge for their time and their resources. There is a combination of either or. I don't work across the whole country. I've worked in various states, but I'm based in Maryland. So most of the work I do is in Maryland. But I have people call me that are in different parts of the country because they've heard about me and they've asked me to help them navigate. And if I can't help you, I'm going to help you find someone. So I think that's just really another important thing to think about. And I know we're not talking about what's happening in the room, but if you're not prepared and you're not mentally prepared and prepared with the right team around you, the right things aren't going to happen in the room because you're missing important parts of the puzzle.
Thank you. I like that. I'm working with you, not for you, which means we're looking for solutions. We're trying to bridge it. I'm not going there to fight the school for you because, they are part of the process. And we just have to find a common ground to make sure your child succeeds. Now, let's talk about mindset shift. It's always a big challenge because most times when we talk about mindset shift, people talk in abstract, right? And most people find it very difficult to translate abstract to concrete, conceptual ways of looking at things, right? So, what's one tool right here you would say listeners can take away right now when it comes to mindset shift?
Are you okay if I relate this directly to when you're walking into a meeting for an IEP
No.
meeting? Is that
Yes.
okay?
And
Okay.
yes.
This is going to be an awful meeting. If you're showing up that way, yep, we're setting ourselves up for failure. Versus, I'm going to walk into this meeting knowing that we're all there for this child and I'm going to do everything I can to work with them. Words matter. What we say matters. How we act matters. And so if we're not willing, even if we had a bad meeting, to let go of that and go into the next one with the same intention of helping our child or helping the guardian, whoever it is that you're working with, the meeting is your energy flow, your mindset goes, energy flows where your mind goes. And when we are stressed and combative and frustrated, they're stressed and combative and frustrated too. And two wrongs don't make a right, but it happens. And honestly, sometimes the mindset shift is I don't want someone like Lisa to come in because I am fearful that I'm going to look weak. And that shift is having Lisa come in allows me to articulate my needs and wants for my child with objectivity and without emotion.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yes.
One brings towards solution, and the other is like, okay, now I feel empowered because I brought her. And the other
Mhm.
is I feel weak because I brought her. So if you're bringing me in, but you're
Mhm.
feeling weak, we're still not going to get where we want to go. Bringing me in and feeling empowered because I'm wrapping my arm around you and working with you is how we're going to make progress together.
Yes, yes, yes. Words matter. Your intentions might be great. So you might say your intentions are great. We all want things to work out. But if you say the wrong things, then you don't have a right to now tell people how to interpret it. So just being conscious of that. Also, back to your point about bringing experts like you into the room. It's the law. You have the right to bring an expert, somebody you trust. And like Lisa said, do your research. We all have all these little phones in our palm. Do your research. Look at the reviews. Get the right match. Talk to the person. Listen to them. See how they want to approach it. And always remember it's about the child. It's not about you. It's about the child. And our ultimate goal is for that child to be successful. So thank you for bringing up that. And I want to ask you this. Most of our listeners right now will be wondering as we're going on, how do I get in touch with Lisa? How do I connect with her? What is she doing? How do I reach out to her? Even though we're going to have every information the listeners need to get to you, but can you share with us how they can connect with you and learn more about your work?
Absolutely. So my website is journey, the number two, bloom.com. You can learn about me, my kids. There's pictures. I'm an open book. Lots of podcast episodes that I have been a guest on. So a lot of appearances. You can learn a lot more about me and more are coming up because I believe that my voice is my strongest asset. And so I try to share as much as I can. So that's a great place to learn more about me. My website as well. My email address is my name, Lisa, the at sign, journey, the number two, bloom.com. So pretty simple. You can also find me on LinkedIn or Facebook, Lisa Richer, and Instagram is at journey, the number two, bloom. So those would be the ways to connect with me, learn more about me. 90% of my clients are referrals. So I take it very serious when somebody finds something that resonates and we talk, and it has to make sense. But that's where you can get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to refer, direct, engage.
Thank you so much. Before we actually wrap up, right? Do you have one last parting word for our guest listeners? One advice coming from your experience, your training, and all you have in one packet? Because I was really excited when I read and saw what you have been doing, and your work. It's amazing. Is there something that you would want to leave with?
So the parents that are out there, trust your gut. Trust your gut, but also know that sometimes you can't do it alone because while your gut is right, your emotions can get in the way of that clarity. And so trust it, but also be mindful of what you do with that gut instinct.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for this conversation. This has been very insightful, and we're grateful for you making out the time to be here with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
And to our listeners, if this resonated, share it. Keep advocating for inclusivity and affirming spaces. Until next time, like I always say, keep on stitching. Spread the word. Awareness is key. And for our parents, always remember the sun is behind the cloud. It has never failed. It will always shine for those who are persistent. So take your time, do your homework, ask the right questions. It's not a deficit. There are challenges, but there are solutions out there. The strengths are amazing. So if you feel like you are in a place where you're like, oh, what is this? Why me? I always say, pick up your phone, search. Very simple. Famous Americans with ADHD, if we're talking about ADHD. Famous Americans with either dyslexia or autism.
Oh, yes.
That will be a great start for you to know that there's a lot of brilliance there. You just have to understand, and things will work out for you. So, thank you very much for being here, and thank you always for making this show what it is.